Hey everybody, welcome back to another vlog. I have been a little MIA. I only have a couple more left of these vlogs until I reach 30. And the last week, mentioned in my other video, I was still recovering from COVID, but over the long holiday weekend here in America, we celebrate Labor Day. It's like the one Monday that you get off. Um, I ended up getting food poisoning, which sucked. So I was still recovering from COVID. I was still, and I just, and I was working with my body. I wanted to do Kundalini yoga. I have to finish a couple more classes. And I ended up doing downward dog just to stretch my body out. And I found myself in vertigo. I had a lot of just sinus pressure. And all of a sudden, I just felt super, super dizzy. I ate something horrible. That was just bad for my stomach the previous night. And then I ended up just throwing up. And I ended up having food poisoning. And so it was definitely not one of the funnest weekends that I've had. I'm still recovering. I'm still feeling a little bit okay. I still have a vertigo. Luckily, I'm going to acupuncture today to just see what we can do. So it's really hard for me to have my head in a certain position because I have the spins. It's like I remember when I was in college and we would drink and I just like sometimes if you drink too much, you just have the spins. And that's what it reminded me of. And oh my gosh, it was just terrible. And so even now I'm still experiencing symptoms of vertigo, of, not being able to put my head in certain positions when I'm sleeping and just feeling the spins again. And so having to just ground myself or just feeling nauseous. And so it's been since Sunday, and it's already Wednesday today. And so I'm just super excited to be going to my acupuncturist to see what they can do, see what points that they can hit to just maintain that sort of balance for myself so it doesn't feel like that I'm off balance. And I know I went down this rabbit hole of doing these, like what exercises can I do at home to um neutralize or like compensate for the vertigo. And it sounds like okay, you might need to see or not acupuncturist but chiropractor so they can just fix your head in different positions. Um but anyways, but it was so interesting because during that time when I was feeling really sick, couldn't even watch TV, couldn't read. I mean, there's nothing you can do when you have food poisoning. You just kind of write it out and you just feel super nauseous. And I haven't had food poisoning in a really long time. The last time I threw up was when I got some virus from my nephew that he got from school. And so I just remember just sitting in bed, just sitting in bed, feeling like I hated my life because I just absolutely hate having any sort of stomach bug. I will do anything I can to not throw up. And so it's like, okay, if you have to, you have to. There's kind of nothing that you can do, and you just have to sort of surrender to that physical discomfort that you have. And so I remember just being there. I felt like in that state of being really sick, I felt really, really vulnerable. And in my vulnerability, I got a ton of downloads, a ton of downloads. And it reminds me of working with the goddess Kali. And, she's all about working with rebirth, but in order to have rebirth, there needs to be destruction of some sort. And so, um, people often associate her with just this idea of childbirth as well, that even though you're birthing something new into the world, the act of childbirth, the physical and emotional kind of toll that it has on you is very, very severe. The changes that happen even afterwards. But in order to birth something, something has to be destroyed essentially. And so I sort of felt that essence and that spirit. And when I was in, this malaise of feeling very sick and very nauseous, I just found myself getting all of these different downloads because my ego, there was no ego. My ego was quiet. It wasn't there. There wasn't any type of resistance to certain things. And I just found myself being more susceptible to being able to hear my heart more, being able to hear what I want, and being able to have spiritual lessons that I realized of maybe there are some ways where I haven't been holding myself accountable to my highest good. How am I conducting myself with other people? What kind of impact do I want to contribute to the world? And so it's almost really deep thoughts, even though I was feeling so sick. I don't know if that happens to anybody. But in a way, it was necessary, because how else could I have heard those things? I know that when I am totally conscious, um, you wake up with sort of this self-centeredness, of things that you have to do. And so when you're completely in the state of vulnerability, when you're completely in the state of being receptive and wanting to, not even wanting or desiring, but just being open, magical things can happen. And so, during that state, I just felt like, okay, I feel myself in this place of wanting to serve in a different way, in this place of how can I impact the most people, of thinking about, well, how am I treating my family, what's my relationship like to my family. I was like, why am I thinking of this in this moment? But it was things like that. And how am I treating my partner? What kind of family do I want to bring into this world? What kind of template do I want to create for this world? How do I want to show up differently? How do I want to show up for this community that I'm building? And so it just really was that reset that I didn't necessarily know that I needed, that I'm still sort of in the fog, right? And so, there are a couple of life decisions that I'm coming up upon of, and I think, and this reminds me of when I first got sober. And it's when, like, one of the biggest things that was hard for me to do was just really be able to express who I was. I think that's why I attract a lot of private one-on-one clients, or just people in my membership who have this desire to be bold and express who they are, because maybe it was stifled when they were younger, or they had to revere their elders so much that their voice was kind of just suppressed and eclipsed by their elders' knowledge. And so I I found myself just really, really thinking about, when I was sober, of how I felt like I had this superpower, that now that I was sober, I could all of a sudden just say anything that I wanted to say without any type of repercussions. And the problem with that is that because you're so new, you have this naivety towards you, right? It's like, I liken it to a superhero that's young, that's very green, and has their superpowers for the first time on maybe their 16th birthday, but they don't know how to use it yet. So it's very unrefined, but they have it. And with age and time, experience and wisdom and knowledge, they'll learn to refine it and be able to control it and navigate it, and ride it in the way that they need to. And and so when I found myself just in that position of, okay, with whatever decisions I was making at that time, I just was very loud, and I didn't think about any of the repercussions at all. And then slowly, with time and, wisdom, and you start to realize that is your everyday life, you're like, oh, okay, I can say certain things in a way where I can be mindful. I can think about the impact. It's not so much about, I just need to say it to get it off my chest because I'm trying to heal years of not being able to say what I need to say. You get to be astute about it. You get to be judicious about it. And that's the thing, is that when you start to live on this spiritual path, you start to realize that the tools just become a way for you to live. It's not necessarily, oh, I need something as a quick fix to, I don't know, alleviate this anxiety or this fear that I'm feeling right now, or discomfort that I'm feeling. It's, you start to regulate your nervous system as you start to integrate the tools into your life. And so as I found myself kind of in this place of, what do I want to do with my life? And it wasn't necessarily this existential crisis of what kind of career do I have. It wasn't something bold or big. It was, what are those small changes that I can make in my life that leads me to the vision that I ultimately want, which is having a family, which is creating impact in this, community or in the world through my teachings? And does it have to be in a way that I view it, or can I be open to co-creating with the universe, with source, with the goddess, with God, in terms of what is my next move? And what does abundance play into that, whether it's inner abundance, whether it's outer abundance. And I've been sort of just on this trajectory of this journey that has been set in motion since I went to Denmark. And it's things where I'm like, oh, okay. I didn't know that I could imagine myself living there. And so it's like those moments when you have those little surprises about yourself, it's most likely these full circle moments where you start to realize, oh my goodness, I can be a different person than who I thought I used to be. Or wow, I didn't know that was in me. And so I've had a lot of examples for that. Like I thought, oh, I never want to live in San Francisco. I'm living in San Francisco. Never thought I would want to live in Denmark. Open to moving to Denmark. Never thought that I would be a yogini. Love Kundalini yoga. Never thought I would, not want to be in, that I could leave my corporate job. I did leave my corporate job. Never thought I would be open to going back to a corporate job. I am open to that idea. And so it's almost like, in order to hold the duality of those decisions and that black and white thinking that you have, it's like you have to have experience in both in order to see that no duality exists, that there is no polarity. And so and it's interesting because I remember I had a reading with a Vedic astrologer once, and in that Vedic system, I am actually a double Gemini as opposed to the Western astrology system where I'm Cancer. And he told me that the Gemini is twins, it's two. And he said that your purpose in life is basically to see the union between all things. So I never forgot that. And so it's funny, as I'm, at this point in my life, I find more and more of just being in those situations where I start to see it, where essentially what it is just seeing everything as one. And so it's needless to say, I don't want to be too personal, because some stuff is for me, right? There have definitely been a lot of different ways that I'm thinking about how do I want to structure my life. How do I want to live my life? What's important to me at this point and moment in time so that it can help set me up for the future. And just even thinking about, and I've been alluding to this, just how do I want to share these spiritual teachings that I've learned? Because for me, it's really important, and it's something that I've had such a strong desire for. And it's funny because I was looking at my notes and I came across a note back from 2017. And it was about this desire to be an entrepreneur and what that dream meant. And I've always had, and I think the foundation for my desire for entrepreneurialism, it really comes down to being able to be a spiritual teacher or coach. And I truly believe that all of the lessons and challenges that I've had to face, or different types of healing modalities that I've explored or wanted to get training in, is so I could help other people in whatever way, shape, or form, in whatever capacity, whether it's through my coaching business, whether it's through a consulting gig, whether it's through a corporate job. It's like you just never know who you can help, or whether it's you watching this vlog that I'm doing. And so that is ultimately it, because my purpose is just really to help create more healing in this world. Because ultimately, at the end of the day, if when we decide to bring more children in it, or if you decide to bring a child in it, I think it's so important to make sure that you have the resources, you have been working on yourself, because a lot of that stuff does get passed down to the child. And so what kind of templates are we creating in our family in order to have healthy, happy children, whether it's emotionally, physically, and the lessons that we can all glean from each other in that way. And so I see that through the types of jobs that we have. Are we happy in our lives? Are we physically happy with ourselves, with our bodies? Do we love ourselves? Are we connected to our bodies? Or are we trying to numb ourselves out because we can't handle certain emotions, or we don't know how to have the capacity to handle certain emotions? And relationships, what's our family relationship life? Like a lot of us have experienced some sort of trauma in some way. And so, what are you doing in your life to help you not recreate those patterns, or be in those dynamics, or navigate those complexities so that you can have a relationship with your family if you do decide to? And then also thinking about what type of partner are you choosing to raise a family with? And are you calling in someone from a healthy place, or are you calling in someone from, a wounded place where you still haven't done the work? And then thinking about children and conscious parenting, and how are you reacting to the child? Are you reacting to the child in a way where they're not meeting your needs of who you need them to be because they make your life inconvenient, and so you take it out on them? Or are you allowing them to grow in an environment that allows them to grow and blossom? And so, those are the biggest areas that I'm constantly thinking about. And it is a deviation from this like very, very niched, sacred feminine, work, divine feminine work. And what I'm being really called to do is just move more in the space of spirituality. And so that's why I brought back that anecdote of when I first got sober, of, being on the spectrum of, oh my gosh, I just want to tell everyone everything because, I have a voice now and da da da, but not necessarily knowing the consequences of what I'm sharing, or not having a higher consciousness or higher awareness of how it's going to affect people. And so you almost need that recalibration of, after you've been on both sides, of what it actually looks like. And so for me, that's where I feel like it's been of, okay, one spectrum, I was just only about inner child work, and that was simply it. And it was amazing to help so many people and so many clients. And then all of a sudden, I got down to like really, really esoteric, mystical stuff, and selling that for a while, through Tantra, through Kundalini, through Shakti, through the goddesses, and everything. And then now I'm finding myself gravitate towards that recalibration moment of being in the middle. And what it is just this umbrella of spirituality. And how do you live your life in a way that makes you feel good for yourself, so you can have a really good relationship with who you are and wake up every day feeling proud of who you are and your choices and your decisions, knowing that you're trying your best. And then also experiencing that in the world, because that has a residual effect that affects everything that you touch, all those relationships in your life. It's like you can live as a recluse on a mountain or in some secluded area, but at the end of the day, what really matters is our relationships with people. Relationships makes the world go round. As much as you try to, and like, trust me, I'm an introverted extrovert. I get my energy from being by myself, for being internalized and processing on my own before I'm able to be out there with other people. But I'm starting to realize just how much I want to be around people, how much I want to do more in-person events, how important I think it is to actually have those connections and build those connections. And what does it mean to have community, whether it's online or offline? And so that to me is just sort of the direction that I see myself going in. And it's this process of learning to accept what comes up for you. And that's why, when I think of, relationships with different people, sometimes what will happen is your paths will deviate from each other and you're not growing on a parallel path. And so you can either say, okay, goodbye, or let's see if we can make this work. And sometimes the paths just aren't aligned, and that's okay. And it's no one's fault. You've outgrown each other. You've outgrown that part of yourself. Maybe you got together when you were at a different stage in your life. And so that's why I say, like, I will never get bored, because there's always, if I am always changing constantly like this, and then you add another partner into the mix and you just see how much they change too, there's just so many beginnings. There's so much newness and freshness, and being able to have that beginner mindset that you constantly need to have with yourself, and being able to welcome all those parts of you. And so it's just, in the death, in the rebirth, there is that period of being able to just state and be in that void and let it settle and let it circulate. And that's what, I was on the phone with a girlfriend yesterday and we were talking about that. Sometimes you can have these experiences and these downloads, but you don't need to necessarily pass it on to someone else and just punt it. You need to let it, just state within you. You need to let it anchor in you. And when you let it anchor in you, you're able to express it in a way that has more reflections, that has more meaning to it. And so wherever you are in your life right now, and especially as you start to, as we're all on this threshold of, we just welcome September, we're on this threshold of being in September of summer and also autumn coming up. Fall equinox is coming up. And it's being in this threshold of the two seasons, and it's really allowing yourself to dream, okay, what do I want to really anchor down into this next cycle? What do I want to put to bed? And being open to what it is that you want. And I know sometimes it can seem as if, well, I'm always trying to let go of something. I'm always trying to bring in something new, right? But it's a beautiful, auspicious time, especially with the fall equinox coming up, because it's a time where we get to go inwards, right? We get to harvest. I love, love, love autumn. It's one of my favorite seasons. I love pumpkin spice. I love autumn movies. I just love, love, love that feeling. And so it's really much a time to really think about and reflect, like, okay, summer I've been out and about, very outwardly and external and extroverted, but how can I bring it all back? What does it mean to go back? And it's important to have these reflections. So just as in work, they have you do, like, I don't know, maybe you have your monthly one-on-ones with your boss, and what did I work on the last month? So think about that, right? Like, what happened to me this last season? What am I reflecting on? And what I want to do moving forward? And so I think it's just such an important time to really, really, really give yourself that. And it's funny, like I think I'm gonna, now that I've had a bunch of these shifts, I really want to get that symbol and image in my head. So I'm gonna do a digital vision board and really anchor in those things that I want, and just love myself during this evolution phase and welcome the new person that's coming with love and with grace and non-judgment. And so wherever you are in your life, I hope that you take the time this month as you straddle between the season of summer and autumn to really think about what it is that you want to call in as we embark on the fall equinox. And if you want to really anchor into your dreams, if you really want help in community and want to be supported, I have the SFA Sacred Femme Alchemy membership. This month, we are talking about how to straddle the seen and the unseen, right? It's about taking aligned actions for the visions that you have, and also allowing yourself to be bold and dream, and noticing, where are you still playing small, right? What are the blocks that you have, and how can we work through it? And I'd really love to have you. I will have it as a link in the description of this YouTube video, but I hope to see you in the membership, and I will talk to you all soon. Have a great day. Bye.